In 2016, 84% of students nationwide graduated high school. However, in Washington, D.C., only 69% of students graduated that same year.
Why is it that the graduation rate in DC is much lower than the rest of the country?
So globalization impacted pretty much all aspects of urban life here in Washington, D.C., and it started post-World War II, 1950s, when all of the GIs kind of came back from the war. They were incentivized to move out to the suburbs to buy their own homes, start their own families, and that kind of exacerbated the racial divide that already existed in Washington, D.C. So alongside that shift in demographics, there was also a shift in industry. During that time, Washington started to become known as a knowledge capital, where a lot of companies that required workers with a very high level of education moved into Washington, D.C. and started to kind of take over the economy of the city. Alongside that growth, there was also a bimodal growth in the service industry that was much lower paying jobs to support the knowledge economy. So there was kind of an economic polarization that happened at that point with the workers that lived in Washington, D.C. As all those companies moved into the city, they had to put their headquarters somewhere. So a lot of money was put into redeveloping land in Northwest DC, which greatly rose land prices, or jacked up land prices, and kind of forced people that couldn't afford that level of rent or to buy homes in that area to move predominantly into the northeast and the southeast quadrants of Washington, D.C. And something that is very categorically across the board true when you look at population displacement and where people are going is that there was an inequitable distribution of resources, where a lot of the resources were concentrated in the wealthier areas and far fewer resources were located in the poorer areas. So on top of all of the effects of globalization in Washington, D.C., education has always been a gray area for the city because Washington, D.C. is not a state, and the federal government has had control over local education laws for most of the city's history.